True Story is a documentary podcast powered by the Institute of Documentary Film. You can find news from the world of film on all the common platforms such as iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, as well as on docweb.net.
Hello everybody, it's my really great honor that we can start the first KineDok online discussion from KineDok Distribution 2022 about the Slovak documentary film The Sailor, with the participation of the director Lucia Kašová and moderator Milota Sidorová. Enjoy the unique online discussion with director of the film, and don't be shy to ask about anything what you interested in the film. Enjoy.
Thank you, Janka. This was a very short and brief meeting. I'm very honored to greet the audience from several locations, several countries, and to gather you on this movie from the country of Slovakia. As you know, famously, we don't have sea, but we shoot movies about the sea. And the lady who you can see, and which is not me, is actually daughter of a captain, which is a sailor herself. So it's going to be not only about the guy that you saw on the movie, but also about her herself. So Lucia, welcome.
Thank you very much, Milota. How are you doing?
Thanks. My first question, where is your boat at the moment? Where are you now?
Well, currently I'm in South Africa because I'm preparing my second feature film here, but my boat lives in Caribbean, in the island of Martinique. So now I'm very closely watching all the hurricanes because it's hurricane season now. And you get alert on your phone, you know, which one is coming through the Atlantic. So yeah, I miss her very much.
So actually, when you said my ship is in the Caribbean, it sounded like some kind of, not like a song, you know, like some kind of, you know, these evergreens. So I'm very happy that you got to know our Navy in person of you. Lucia is a film director. She has several documentaries or like movies on her account. As it says, she is bewildered by freedom-loving characters. And my first question when I asked her before you joined us was like, if you do this, how much is the story of a man who obviously spent the whole of his life in basically avoiding normalities of the society? How much is it connected to your own life? How much does it reflect upon your personality? So what do you have in common with Paul Johnson?
Well, many things. As my professor used to say, he said, like, us documentarists, we all only make, or like always, some kind of version of our auto-portrait. So yeah, of course, because I'm a sailor, my father is a sailor, and I'm very close to the sea. And I was living amongst the community of, we call it sea gypsies, people who burn their national flags and their passport and live with very little money on their very broken ships and travel the world. So, and I got really enchanted about this community, that how they help each other, you know, like the sense of kind of humanity, maybe, that I feel very little in the cities, and in current situation with the wars and pandemics. You know, I feel it's still less and less. Where this sense of community is huge. Because every sailor knows that from time to time he gets into a situation when he needs help of somebody else. So when they see you in troubles, people are rushing to come and help you. And I think the sense of humanity is there much more greater than in our society.
Mm-hmm. Jana, I think, made a nice art, because I'm the urban planner, and my love are the cities. And I actually work for the government, and we do plans how to build cities. But I think there is a great depth in what you said, that city or land communities are different than island communities, because you said from time to time everybody needs help. So everybody's rushing to help you. So it seems like the natural condition and the nature itself, because the weather talks apparently are so important for them, is creating different kind of relationships between people. And this is something that you conveyed through this movie. Could you maybe go a little bit in depth, like how does it look like when you are on a ship, when you are in Caribbean? Like how do you behave to people? You respect them, or you greet them, or how does it look like for us city people who basically dwell in our anonymity and our mortgage and flats and materiality?
Well, the first thing concerning the life in Caribbean, the first thing you need to realize that we portrayed in our film as well is the hurricanes. Yeah. Because on the average, every island gets hit by a hurricane every 20 to 30 years, at least once. And in that case, it's usually everything is completely destroyed and everybody's starting from zero, and they are completely dependent on the help from outside, especially from the other islands, because they are the closest. So they come rushing with like the basic necessities, which is like fuel, water, food, and they start to rebuild the islands. That's why. When you come there, some of the islands, like first you see is negligence maybe of the public environment. But as I asked my friend who had like this really simple beach bar, and I was suggesting like, why don't you do this or that, like to make it more pretty, and he looked at me and said like, my bar got completely destroyed 3 times already. First 2 times it was very nice. This time I'm not putting extra effort in it, because it's just for the few years to come, and it's gonna get destroyed again. So yes, I think you heavily rely on help of other people. I think on the sea is the same case. If you are around people, if you are not, if you are in the middle of the ocean, you rely only on yourself. But as well, I think on the islands and the people just know each other. Like there's no anonymity. You have to realize that you have a sea around the island, and there's very few people, so everybody basically know each other, or they know somebody from your family. So there's no anonymity. Like whatever you do, it drags with you all your life.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually what we call social control. You can experience in small villages, maybe
yes,
too. But it's also a huge responsibility, because whatever you do, as you said, it stays with you. And I will come back to this later, but let's go into the movie, because Paul Johnson seemed like a fascinating character. Obviously, the question is, how did you find him? Did you just sail into Caribbean and he was there drinking rum and hanging around, or like what was the journey?
Yeah, it was something like that. Well,
that was
well, first it had like kind of long journey, of course. First, I start to be a sailor. I start sailing. Then I crossed Atlantic on the boat, and that's how I first came to Caribbean. And after 4 months there living amongst the sailing community, I decided that I really want to make a film about them. And sorry,
what did he say when you told him?
Well, first I wanted to make a film about the community. as like many documentary films start as an idea about some phenomenon, and then it kind of crystallizes to this one character, and that's exactly what happened here. So I was living in Caribbean for a few months, and I was considering potential characters. There's this local sailing newspaper called Compass, so I went to the editor of the newspaper, and I asked him about. I really wanted the characters of like the past century, the really old kind of true sailors, and I got a few names. And one of the names was Paul Johnson, and he was the closest. So I went to visit him, and yeah, pretty much that was it.
But he's just like a guy who loved women, like not only that women, but in a way, I can't help myself. He is so lonely, yet he is so open. It feels like there is some kind of bittersweet taste in his life. So how was it when you were near him? How long did you spend with him? How did he react to your presence? Because obviously he said, I'm not used to be alone. I'm used to a presence of a woman, and suddenly this woman is you. So how was your interaction? Was he trying to charm you or like all of that?
Well, Johnson loved women all his life.
Obviously.
Yeah. And he had many women in his life. He had 3 wives, but his wife actually wrote me a few days ago, and she told me I can't say that he had 3 wives because she was his only wife. the other his long-term relationships, they weren't married. But he's used to have a woman in his life all the time. And actually this wife of his, Patty, she was the last one. And yes, he had 3 kids with his 3 long-term relationship he had, and he had quite good relationship with all of his 3 kids. They came to visit him from time to time. His firstborn son, he's living on the farm that Johnson bought with one of his girlfriends when she tried to persuade him to stay to live on land. It was on the island of Azores Islands, called Flores. It's supposed to be the most beautiful one. So they bought this secluded farm there and built the house, and Johnson lasted about 3 months. And then he said, no, he could not do that. So they sailed away, and now his son is living on the farm. Then his daughter, Eliala, she was born, I think, in New Zealand, when they were sailing there with his girlfriend, Marina. And Eliala, she's living in Netherlands now. She's studying child psychology, and she's in circus. So she's very interesting character as well. And his youngest son, Merlin, that actually used to live in Kariakou for some time. Yes.
But how was he? Because actually, it seems like you were one of the last women around him, like so closely. So how was he behaving towards you?
Well, we became very close friends with Johnson. Because I spent a lot of time with him, but I wasn't the only woman in his life. There was Angie. Angie is our dear friend that she used to be a nurse when she was living in Germany. So Angie used to have her boat right next to Johnson's boat, and the last years of his life, actually, she would take care of him until the very end.
Cool. Okay, maybe let's go to his reluctance. For me, it's fascinating. Like, he could stay on the land only 3 months, and then I think in the movie he says like, I was born on the boat. The parents died, early, but died. He's referring to his sister, And from psychology, we know that first 5 years are extremely important, for, not only for relationships, how you build with the other people, but also you are seeking the environment in which you were born and growing through all your life. This is my field, like environmental psychology. So it seems like when a person born on a boat, you put on the land, there seems to be some kind of escape mechanism, like, oh my God, I have to go back. So maybe it's called determinism, but
that's kind of that's kind of questionable in his case, because yes, he was born on the boat, and for first years of his life he was living on the boat, but the boat was actually on dry. It was in the marina. Okay. So his parents used to make these expeditions with the boats. They made a lot of like bird watching expeditions in the 30s and 40s. To the North Pole, but usually they were docked on the land with the boat, and they had a really good relationship together. His parents, they stayed together till they died, and Johnson used to go visit his mother. He said he was saying that every 2 or 3 years he would sail through the Atlantic just to visit his mother. And she died when she was 96.
Okay.
On the boat where he was born on.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if I answered your question.
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. But maybe what I was referring that if you're born on a boat, whether it's docked or there, you have obviously a different idea, for example, or like different image. What is it home? You know, for us, home is family home on the suburb, or a flat, or in the city. You have to build it with bricks. It doesn't move. You know perfectly where you are. This is your area. You protect it. If somebody new comes in, you protect it. And this is like this geography and the society that we live in, and that determines us. Now, maybe I conclude a little bit further, because you said those islands are dependent on each other, you know, and maybe to our readers, there is a difference between people who are like in psychology, who are on land, or people who are bound to the land. They're called farmers. And then we have nomads, obviously. And these two types of people have totally different preferences. The first is not made to obviously settle anywhere. If they settle, for example, in cities, like, because now there are so many modern nomads, they would go and seek for high, for example, flats with good view. They would seek smaller flats, or, you know, they have certain preferences. Farmer people, in their mind, they like to stick to one place, and their passion grow with a slow passage of time, and they like the same things. And some psychologists also drew conclusions that maybe nowadays there is something that we can relate to, especially politically or state, like, why are we so afraid of migrants, right? These are the newcomers, the new ships, you know, coming to our territory. We have to protect, you know, or, you know, it's just me and my materiality. I'm here to protect. But when you show this and you speak about these Caribbeans, like, the islanders are totally dependent on each other. Every few years, nature destroys it. So they have this constant provisorium in their lives, which can be only equaled by amount of help towards each other. So when I thought about that, I saw like there's a beautiful layer in this movie which says that maybe the islanders or Caribbean, and does not represent only one single story of a guy who decided to escape from society. Maybe the whole environment represents alternative towards us farmers, you know, protecting the land, worrying about anything new, because you know, I don't know if you can comment on that, but I was just amazed how one single story can make such a big circle to me.
I think a lot of people connect to this story because many of us have their like kind of inner inner Johnson inside, and who would like to just like stop everything, stop paying the bills, the mortgages, and just go travel and don't care about anything. And that's what I got really interested in as well, because I had this idea too. It's very appealing to just like kind of stop everything and just live in total presence and freedom. But I was curious what is on the end of such a journey. And because Johnson was so intense, and he did everything for like 200% when he did it. So this was like, especially at the end of his life, the reminiscence, the deep talks that we had, and what I tried to translate into the film was maybe, yeah, I was interested if it's selfishness, or if it's kind of need for freedom, because Johnson said he could not live any other way. It wasn't possible for him.
Yeah.
But because of this, he needed to make some kind of compromises, like all of us need to do some kind of compromises when we decide on something very strongly. So I was interested if it did make him happy. So I don't think there's a simple answer to that. You can't say yes or no. It's always a mixture of different shades. But yeah, till the end, he was saying like he couldn't, like it was like he found it out very early on in his life, in his 20s, that this is what he needs. And many sailors tell me that, and Johnson in particular, he was very particular about, he said, like, when you stay more than 40 days on the sea, something happens to you. Something happens to your brain. And I experienced it when we sailed through the Atlantic. We stayed over 40 days on the sea because we had some technical problems. And that's exactly what I get it from my own experience, that like something happens in your head and suddenly you just perceive the life differently, and either you start to hate it, or it's like a drug. You can't live without it. Like you was mentioning, you like being alone and walking, have that motion. So for me and for many other sailors, it's like this addiction when you're sailing on your ship, and there's quiet, and you just kind of with this element of nature. So that's something that becomes very, very important to you. You can't delete it anymore.
Yeah. So would you say that when this happens, these 40 days you experience, it's like some kind of submission towards idea that I can be alone in the nature and it's fine, or it can be even drug? Like what happened to you, as you mentioned?
I think it's a certain connection with the nature that you just start to comprehend it a little bit differently. And especially on the sea, it's because you're in this different kind of state of mind when you're sailing, especially when you're captain, because when you go for like long navigations, you never really asleep, because every little different sound, different splash of a wave wake you up, because your life depends on it, right? Yeah. So even when you sleep, you're not really asleep, you're like half asleep. And then when you awake, you're not kind of fully awake because you're deprived of this really deep sleep. So your days kind of merge into this different almost experience of reality, something between waking life and a dream. And in that state, you start to kind of comprehend, the nature elements on a different level. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but we had a long discussion with Johnson about this.
Yeah, but I can relate to it, like I'm sure everybody in the audience had few days of sleep deprivation, like when we are half tracked, like it's like nothing matters, we have this almost nirvana submission state, take me, but you also said like it's the nature and you still have to protect yourself. So it's a little bit like a deliric state, like, and of course you can then contemplate those ideas, like as we see in the movie, he's writing beautiful poems, he's painting, or like he has no problems about discussing any kind of philosophy. So it seems like you're opening some kind of inner brain or inner access to yourself, so it just flows, from you. That brought me, obviously, he is. It seems like he is a lonely character, maybe from perspective of society, who is so dependent on relationships, and this is not a new idea. One of my favorite books is from therapist Anthony Storr. He was a great British therapist, and he wrote a beautiful book about music and mind, and then solitude. And he was attracted by creative characters, and then he starts. It was written in like 60s, started last century. He said, we are so obsessed with defining our society by relationships, which especially romantic relationships. So any person without a romantic relationship is considered to be abnormal, Or how do we pursue these romantic relationships now? Like a wife, husband, 2 children, nuclear family, traditional family, bound with mortgage, anything. And we can all relate to it, so this is one thing, like there is this push. What's wrong with you if you don't have a partner for 40 years? Obviously, it's changing with our generation, but at the time it was not. And he found out that people who are very creative have some kind of inclination to solitude. And he was studying, of course, writers and composers, and he found out that solitude is a really important state in order to be creative. You need some kind of procrastination to start even contemplate ideas. And I look at the Paul Johnson, or even you, I mean, you are the artist, but he wasn't like making movies, but he was artist in the terms like he was creating his own life, completely different to what is prescribed to normal society. So it seems like solitude was inherent part of his life, and he couldn't do without it. That's one thing. And then he said, this store, the psychologist said, like, many people make this mistake that they consider those people unhappy. They cannot have very satisfying life even with more partners, or not romantic partners, friendships, or very often these people marry partners who actually are their mothers, nurses, like people who you wouldn't consider equals. But we cannot really say just because he's unhappy. So I would say, like you say, there is no clear answer. I would say, yes, it is not. And maybe it depends who's asking, with what kind of...
Exactly.
So what do you conclude of Paul Johnson in the end, and for your own life? Because obviously in some ways you are riding the same boat, the same ship.
Well, I can definitely say, yeah, Johnson loved his time alone. He could not be without it. And he lived amazingly fulfilling life. Yeah. Well, it's just like a degrees of what you choose. He was, his life was an extreme example, because he started to ride kind of the wave of freedom in the 60s, and he got like kind of swept away by the 60s generation. And that's how he continued till the end. Mm-hmm. And he was like partly, at the end, he was partly living in his memories that were like, what he did in 10 years, I haven't done in my whole life. He had amazing amounts of experience and incredible stories. But if he would exchange it for something else at the end, I don't think so.
My first reaction, and thank you for this, when I watched this movie, it was in the morning, I was going to work, it's like the usual emails, and it somehow, when I played it for myself, it was like tranquilizer, like, oh my God, somebody going analog, somebody being there in present. But also, I know that he was old and he was waiting for the end, and so my first question is like, is it always waiting for the death, like it was incredibly sad for me, like this time when the energy goes down and he just knows, and we are so afraid of that, and you make a movie about it, basically waiting for death to come. So I thought, oh my God, this is like something. But the other thing, he was like, I don't think I will be living this bloody long. So he has these funny comments on his life, why I'm still here. I was supposed to be dead, It seems like he's like fine with that, or like he's able to make fun of that, which I adore about people, because if you have humor, obviously you are about thing, or you are not victim. So it seems like the movie is in a way sad and bitter and funny at the same time.
Yeah, because he had, a certain lightness about being, and he had a great sense of humor. And yes, I don't think like us as a society, we don't talk about this stage of life much. There have been very few movies, few of them recently made, that people are finally start to think about it, I think, or just like openly to talk about it, or try to start a discussion, because like it's waiting for all of us, and we don't really talk about it. It's still a certain taboo in our society. We don't want to slow down, and this was important for me in creating this film, to kind of replicate the stillness or the steadiness of his life, how he's kind of dropping between like memories and the reality, and sleep and dreams. That is like this kind of different sense of reality of an old person. So that's more maybe meditating, but I think that state of mind is waiting for all of us one day, and we should have at least some kind of idea where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Actually, before this online streaming started, I asked Lucia, like, why did you do it? And said, like, I was about to draw something like mental map of what's expecting me in the future as like this great they say around age 36, your mental development is there, and people start to have crisis because you were supposed to be dead from prehistoric era. So you have to seek for a purpose. And this is usually the time when you are contemplating your mortality for the first time, like strongly. So it seems it fits for you and me as well to think about it for the first time. Maybe it gets better with age. I also want to encourage the audience because our discussion is getting a little bit psychotherapeutic, following the vibes of the movie, which exactly you said, it's like a meditation. And I think it's a proud word for this documentary. So feel free to send us questions. We will still have like around 20 minutes. If Bianca or somebody from technical staff can pass me into chat, I will ask Lucia. And now I will ask you. So here we have this character, the stillness, the meditation, and still you have to make a movie out of that. And the movie cannot be only visual, or like it has to go from point A to point B, So how did you structure all of these things together? Was it difficult for you, or you just went chronologically or thematically? Because if it's too much philosophy, sometimes it's like too vague. How to bring it down to earth, to some structure that you can follow?
Yes, exactly. We had a very hard time in editing because we had tons of material. And I really wanted to kind of have like two structures. One will be this kind of contemplation of like Johnson alone on his boat, and the other would be the reality kind of catching up on him. So we like constructed these two kind of narrative lines, and then we just like crossed them between each other. But yeah, we had it was a long way of discovery, because I could not really distinguish how much of the information the viewer needs, if it's enough or not enough. I didn't want to make a film that it would be, only talking. So yeah, we were a little bit struggling in the editing room, like finding the right structure. And the amount of information as well. Well, what I'm working on now, because I still have a lot of interviews of Johnson, that some of the stories I really love, and they just didn't get to the film. Usually it's like that in the documentary film. Like they say, like, you have to kill your darlings, like the things that you really, really want to be in the film. They just like can't be in there because it doesn't fit into the structure of the film. So I'm now going through all these interviews, and now we want to publish like a small audiobook of Paul's stories and all the funny and exciting things from his life that didn't got into the film, but I think they should be had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so there's so much material. You also mentioned that Paul Johnson died like 1 month after the premiere, or somewhere around that time. So this is somehow like your act of tribute, or like let's utilize this material. Have you had some response from his family to this movie, especially if he was waiting for the end, it happened, then the movie got out, and now it's, passing through the world? Like, what did the family say, or his friends? Like,
yeah, well, I took like it was, I think, 4 years since we started the film till we finished it. So during these 4 years, every year I went, first time only for research, and then 2 years we went for filming with the crew for a few months. And then I did this few very difficult months of editing. And we got the movie out there. It was premiered in Hot Dogs Film Festival, which is one of the A festivals. And then I went back to Caribbean. It was the middle of the Corona crisis, and it really wasn't good to travel, but I kind of had that feeling that I need to go and see him. And I sent him the film before. I sent it to our friend Angie, and Angie would put it on his tablet. And I was writing with Angie. I was like, how he likes the film. And she said, well, he doesn't say anything, but he watches it every day. So he watched it every day for about a month before I got there. And when I came there, he said, like, okay, he said, you did a good job. And that was very important for me. Like, especially like that was the thing I was most nervous about, like how he would take it. Because when he said it first time, and she said he didn't take it so well. Because still, it's very difficult to look at yourself through eyes of somebody else. So so we spent a few long hours with Johnson to talk about it, and at the end, after the months of watching that film, he said he was happy about it, and that was the most important thing for me.
Actually, exactly, because it's not, I know it's like this wild character, but it might not be the flattering picture of him, like it can show him as like, I never want to belong to anyone. You basically have all these red flags, like this guy is not responsible. He's leaving his children behind, So from the cut, and if you don't, I think, feel the meditation of this movie, if you only rely on what he says and not on the movie, it may not be what you expect, like
Yeah.
nice.
We definitely didn't make any promo film about him or made him into the superhero. Definitely not. Yeah, that's why it was very important for me how he took it and how he seen it, because as well, to see yourself, like when I seen Johnson's pictures when he was young, he was this like handsome, powerful, strong man. And to portray just, for you to get, so intimate in front of the camera, like in your 80s, that's I think, not many people would do. And
he seemed very confident in front of the camera, and it's like he lets go that close. I mean, he likes people tell him they love him. He's somehow very open, he lets you, and he's very photogenic. He looks at you like this, so I cannot help myself thinking he had a good time, while doing this. It's not only about waiting for that and talking those things, but the way how he speaks. I was thinking, like, did you hire an actor to do the voiceover? Because it's very confident and it's very good, like phrasing. Some people can barely take a word out of themselves, and this is very consistent. He could be a narrator. So I was like, wow, it's very good material, actually.
Yeah, I loved his voice, and that's one of the things, like the way he was talking. Like often when I would come to his boat, he would have like 5-10 people sitting on his boat, and he would just tell stories, and everybody would be laughing for hours. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was very good storyteller.
Yeah. So okay, so let's leave Paul Johnson a little bit with the word that everybody has a little Johnson inside. So let's keep our inner freedom open. And maybe let's go like this was, I don't know how many movies did you do, but the list was quite long, including some TV series and short stories and longer. Like if you consider your, let's say, artistic development as a movie maker, like how would you reflect on it? What does the sailor represent for you as a movie maker in terms of your art and expressing through movies?
Well, it was my first feature-length documentary. I did many short films before, but yeah, this was the first feature-length. And everybody said that, to do like 50 minutes film and 68 minutes film is such a huge difference. And I didn't believe them. And it is such a huge difference.
Why is that?
Because you need to build the structure of the film differently for such a long period of time. And it takes about 3 to 5 years to make one film. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is a long journey, and yeah, I guess I learned many things. I learned many things about myself in this film as well. Yeah, I think you can feel it, that it's very personal film, this one.
Yeah, it is. So any, like now when you're in Africa, could you tell us what are you up to, and what's coming after Sailor? I suspect it's a new project.
Well, right now I'm working on my second feature film, and it's supposed to be a documentary sci-fi from the year of 2035, when all the ecologic predictions that the scientists are saying already happened. Okay. And now we live in the world that is divided into two class of people, the rich and the poor. Mm-hmm. And these two worlds are divided by a big 4-meter wall. Mm-hmm. And that's why we film in South Africa, because here this world kind of, at least visually, already exists. And now we are filming with children this time.
Okay, so
So it's gonna be kind of ecological film. It's gonna be something like a little warning to us as a society, where kind of, if we're not gonna be careful, like where the divisions between people can lead to, and how the world gonna look like for our children.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty. I know everybody's talking about that now. Even politicians speak of climate change. But then again, when it comes to short-term solution, you know, like with this energy crisis and Russian invasion to Ukraine, like, okay, let's bring coal again. We have energy crisis. Let's make gas again. You know, like humanity in a way is very good in choosing the worst short-term solution, which is the easiest for them at the moment. So in a way, it's maybe proper that you do this dystopian future.
Yeah, well, I was studying a lot with like all these predictions, what's supposed to happen in like very short time. And the scientists I was talking to, they said one thing that got stuck in my head, and they said that people don't have enough imagination to kind of picture what is coming, to picture this world.
Yeah.
So that became kind of like the basic idea of this film. Okay, like if there's no imagination in the film, we can show it to people, you know, like one of the versions of reality, you know, what it could become.
In a way, I find it somehow symbolical that your last movie was about basically openness, you know, open sea landscape, like the freedom, and the next movie is going to be about wall and divisions, you know, like but before you contemplated death, so it seemed like mental preparation for a big topic.
Thank you.
I'm doing a big fan of psychology as amateur, but it seemed to be like a good narration. What you said.
Yeah, maybe it was preparation, maybe. Yeah, because like every film I make is pretty much the most difficult one. You know, that I ever did, and with this film is the same story again. It's the most difficult one that I ever did.
Okay. Anyway, it still can get better. So let me check if we have some question. If not, it seems like not, but I still encourage you. This lady is very interesting, and she's talking very you know, intimate things in the sense that you don't have to get the chance anytime soon. So shoot us a question if you can through this chat, or Janka or the technical team, please do so, because I'm really enjoying these discussions. I want to give a little bit of that to you as well.
Yeah. What I can say that like since we made the film, and we made like a website and Facebook site, and so many people already written to us that they spent some time with Johnson, that they've been sailing with him for a short time, people from all over the world. It was quite incredible. He's
a global persona.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is the way, like, how you leave the thread, you know, like you're going from place to place. Maybe people remember you better than if you only live on one place in a shorter circle. In any case, this was a great essay, not only about the last part of the journey, but also freedom and basically, I cannot say alternative life towards us. I think it's fully normal to live like this. If you have conditions like that. So I would like to thank you for this movie, and maybe I would like just carry on, like were there any other critical responses, like from the movie makers or from this expert community, like how did they take? Obviously I cannot judge because I'm urbanist, but I was really intrigued, but I'm interested about expert reviews.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, we won like the prize of like Slovak film critics. Yeah, that was a few weeks ago, and I was really glad that like the Slovak film critics liked the film so much. So, and we won the prize in the United States in Clickers Rhode Island Festival as the best feature documentary. And again, the Critics Award in Egypt in Ismailia Film Festival. So yeah, the film is traveling quite a lot, and people seem to like it.
That's congratulations. Yet, would you change anything looking back 1 year?
Of course, like now I would make the film completely different.
In what way?
Yeah, but I think that's the way, you know, if you make art, if you work on something, you know, as you grow, you realize different things, and you pretty much never happy with what you done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it seems like we are reaching almost 8 o'clock, and since there are no questions, Lucia, let me thank you on behalf of everybody, every nomad, because this was nice essay or like ode maybe to this kind of lifestyle. I wish you also good funding for the next movies, not only dystopian, but about such strong topics. I believe art should be about topics that we don't dare to talk about or release through PR reports. So all the best with the movie. I would like also to thank Jana and the whole team of KineDok, so that they made it possible that you can enjoy this movie and we can connect from so many countries. I also want to pay tributes to people who live on the island, because it's so different lifestyle. So I would like thank you for your openness as we are coming to you. Maybe sometimes on a vacation. I heard that there are so many people from Croatia. So this is island country as well. And otherwise, I would want to wish to thank you. Thank you for being with us, and also have a beautiful, beautiful evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for moderating very interestingly. And we got into some psychological topics too. I hope.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope the viewers enjoy it. Thank you so much.
So have a good evening, everyone, and enjoy.
Bye.